Oh, bonsoir. Welcome once again to This Be the Verse Poetry for Adults here in the sub basement of PS 75, the Emily Dickinson School. Have you ever been in a relationship that is just so all-consuming, so overpowering and tumultuous that you barely know if you're coming or going? Perhaps you've fallen in love with someone who's so difficult to love, but you just can't quit him. Perhaps you just don't quite believe your great good fortune at finding someone, or maybe you feel like you just don't deserve to be loved. Have you ever felt like that, Sergio? Sometimes it's just so hard, you know? It's hard to be together. It's hard to be apart. Sometimes it's just so hard. You feel like you're going crazy. You could drive a person crazy. Sometimes it's just so hard, you know? So hard. It's just so hard. Well, perhaps now would be a good time to take a moment to contemplate the wonders of the world and the meaning of existence while I freshen up my makeup. If you've never had the experience of crazy, complicated love, then perhaps you need to get out more. Or perhaps you should just listen to the two poems that I have for you tonight. The first of which is by the poet John Donne, and he was born in, excuse me, let me get my other notes. I'm a little flustered for some reason tonight. I can't quite figure it out. John Donne was born in 1572 and he died in 1631. And here we have another example of a priest grappling with his God, just like we had in Hopkins' poem, Carrion Comfort. But in this instance, John Donne uses imagery that's so explicitly physical and sensual that it takes on a whole new character. It's an explicit exploration of the love relationship with God as if it were a romantic love relationship. It veers between a struggle between the lover and beloved, sometimes to a master and slave sort of situation, and veers toward the toy boy and his dominatrix. John Donne, first a little bit about John Donne. He was born into a renowned Roman Catholic family, which was not such a good thing because at that time Catholicism had been outlawed by Henry VIII, and to be Catholic was not such a great thing in England. In fact, Donne's family was endangered by this. His brother Henry was actually imprisoned once for harboring a priest whose name was William Harrington. And after quite a goodly amount of torture, John's brother Henry betrayed his friend, William Harrington, and subsequently they arrested the priest, William Harrington, and tortured him on the rack. And then they hanged him until he was not quite dead, at which point he somehow was able to unleash himself from the noose. There was quite a big tussle with the hangman, But they grappled him and quite publicly, and I imagine quite messily, disemboweled him. And that was the end of William Harrington. Well, shortly after these events, surprise, surprise, John Donne left Catholicism and converted to Anglicanism. Not only did Donne switch from the Catholic Church to the Anglican Church, he went so far as to become an Anglican priest. And the main difference, one of the main differences between Catholicism and the Anglicans, is that Anglican priests can marry, which John Donne did, and had 12 children. So he knew quite a bit about the spiritual life and the sensual life, which is on wonderful display in the sonnet that we're going to hear tonight. This sonnet is, as I said, from one of the holy sonnets, and it takes its title from the first line, "Batter my heart, three-personed God." The three-personed God, of course, refers to the Christian concept of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And we start off right with a bang with batter, batter my heart. So, batter my heart, three-personed God. For you as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend. That I may rise and stand, o'erthrow me, and bend your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new. I, like an usurped town to another do, labor to admit you, but oh, to no end. Reason, your viceroy in me should defend, but is captive and proves weak or untrue. Yet dearly I love you, and would be loved fain, but am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie or break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I, except you enthrall me, never shall be free, nor ever chaste, except you ravish me. Wow. John Donne, in a bit of spiritual turmoil, in a bit of sensual turmoil, and I think we've all been there, and I think we can all relate. We'll move on from him to our beloved, honored matriarch, Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson lived from 1830, to 1886. Now, Dickinson was famously reclusive, and she conducted the relationships that weren't in her immediate family solely through letters. And although she didn't live a large life out in the world, she was intensely emotional, and she knew what was what. And this poem definitely falls into the category, it's complicated. This is poem 640 in the official numbering of Dickinson's poems, since most of them never saw the light of day while she was alive. So, poem 640. I cannot live with you. It would be life. And life is over there, behind the shelf the sexton keeps the key to, putting up our life, his porcelain, like a cup discarded of the housewife, quaint or broke. A newer Sèvres pleases, old ones crack. I could not die with you, for one must wait to shut the other's gaze down. You could not, and could I stand by and see you freeze without my right of frost, death's privilege? Nor could I rise with you, because your face would put out Jesus's. That new grace glow plain and foreign on my homesick eye, except that you than he shone closer by. They judge us. How? For you served heaven, you know, or sought to. I could not, because you saturated sight, and I had no more eyes for sordid excellence's paradise. And were you lost, I would be, though my name rang loudest on the heavenly fame. And were you saved, and I, condemned to be where you were not, that self were hell to me. So, we must meet apart. You there, I here, with just the door ajar. That oceans are, and prayer, and that white sustenance, despair. I think we all now know what Joe Strummer and Mick Jones and gang meant when they said, "This indecision me molesta." Merci beaucoup, Fabrice. Well put. And for those of you who are too young to have caught on to the Clash reference, well, shame on you. Shame on you for being so young. Shame, you young, fresh, smooth, dewy, tight young thing you. See me after class, and we'll discuss the question, should I stay or should I go? But for now, we'll go. We'll go to pay attention to the wonders that are in the world. Until next time, mwah. I am Too Tight Lautrec. And this be the verse.